In time. In time. Testing. Briefing. Testing. Briefing.
Hello. Welcome. This is Johannes from the Angel Swing account this time. And we are here together with all the other hosts, which is June, Ethspresso, Casper, and Rubble. And yes, we are waiting for our next guest, and I hope she will be also joining. And we have a very important topic today, because recently there have been a lot of scams, a lot of people trying to get your money. And in the last time, there were a lot of big accounts with a lot of followers which were compromised. For example, just recently, the account from Seneca, which many of you will definitely know. He's a very high respected person. And even that person got into trouble with web security. So I would say, or better, Web3 security, excuse me. So therefore, I would like to talk today especially about this topic, Web3 and security. And this is important for both the artists, because you don't want your wallet being hacked and your art is gone, and also for the collectors, because you don't want to have your wallet being hacked and all your valuable NFTs are gone. Yes, and we are still waiting for our special guests, which is Crystal Groves from the United States. She has an amazing vita. She is a website creator, social marketing, media marketer, search engine optimization. She also worked with graphics and brand design. And recently, she secured some Discords. And I'm really curious what she can tell us about Discord security.
Actually, she seems like a really multi-talented. I seem to see the pattern that all the speakers that we invite on our spaces are all super talented, and they have all these different aspects to them. And yes. I went through like her Instagram and her webpage, and she's apparently part of so many different NFT projects. It'd be really interesting to hear from her. So I do hope she joins in.
Yeah, for example, she's doing the security for the Misfits Discord, right?
Yeah, and she has her own web design company, and it's just quite a variety of projects that she's part of.
Mm. And maybe Casper, while you are already talking, if somebody starts to listen to this space later on, could you please give him nice introductions about the Angel Swing?
Yeah. So we are the Angel Swing, founded by friends, all mainly over here, who met through our beloved Metal Angels project. If you haven't checked them out, you should definitely check them out. It's a really feel-good project where everyone has really good intentions of helping people. So we all met through the Discord there. Driven by our common passion to showcase independent artists and their art, helping them to stand out from the crowded NFT market, which we all know is dominated by generative 10K PFP projects. And of course, we showcase the art in an on-cyber virtual gallery, which you can see from our profile link, with the simple logic that a larger collection brings a larger cross-pollination of viewership. And that has, of course, helped quite a few of our artists reach collectors efficiently through sales. And I'm glad to say we have organically grown since then, thanks to our nice Discord and our regular spaces, into a community of artists and collectors, but most importantly, friends. And of course, the easiest way to get in touch with us is to join our cozy Discord. Again, the link is in our profile. Everything's on the Linktree link. So do hit us up if you're an indie artist who needs help featuring your art, or if you just want to join a friendly NFT art community. You would have seen our latest development that we have formed a unofficial DAO, a subset of friends in there collecting from a NFT project called Scales. So this is just one of the examples of how a group of close, trusted friends can come together to create great things. Do check us out. So we hope to see you.
A well done introduction as always. Thank you, Caspar. Yes. So I think we can start with our main topic today, and this is Web3 security. I would recommend that we try to focus on different things separately. I would like to talk first about Twitter security. So things you should do when you are inside the Twitter universe, what you should do and what you should not do as a collector and an artist. Then we could talk a little bit about Discord security, also again regarding the collector and the artist. And yes, hopefully we will see Crystal then joining and telling us a little bit more about this special topic. And then, of course, the most important part is Web3 security. So how can I protect my wallet from attacks? How can I minimize the damage if my wallet was compromised? So this is, of course, the most important part because, yeah, all your funds are in a wallet, of course. So let's start with the first topic, and this is Twitter security. For example, we could make it like this, that everybody gives some personal recommendations regarding this topic. For example, I would say enable two-factor authentication. You know, it's important that if, for example, somebody is able to get your password and knows your email address, that he's still not able to log in because you have on a second device a little code that has to be entered. Otherwise, the person is not able to gain access, even if the person has a username and password. That's why it's very, very important to have a two-factor authentication. For example, it could be Google Authenticator, or, for example, I have another software that I can recommend, which is Authy, because this one is able to make backups, which is, of course, another big topic that nobody can read your backup. But for example, these both products, we will link them later on in the Discord, in the YouTube description, so that you can get the right app and not, for example, the wrong one. So that was my first point. Do you have another tip for the people? For example, Ethspresso.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I think I would focus on, for example, when on Twitter, there's a lot of information and a lot of FOMO sometimes. So I would strongly urge people to try to keep the FOMO in check and always double check and verify. I find that on Twitter, it's always good to do a bit of background checks before trusting information. Like start with simple things like checking the number of followers and recent tweets and replies from an account, because we've seen so many examples of fake accounts popping up and tweeting stuff, and people fall for it, sadly. So doing the background checks and try to keep the FOMO in check is something I think is really important to try to remember.
I would say everybody's free to speak. For example, Caspar, I'm sure you have also some tricks and tips.
Actually, I was going to speak about making sure that you verify the accounts as well, because I think there was a tweet recently that I read about how, you know, all those blue check marks. Apparently, these have on the flip side, instead of creating the safety of trust, it has actually exacerbated or made worse the problems of hacks, because the moment an account with a blue check mark gets hacked and compromised, and people think that a tweet coming from that account is actually the real thing, it makes things a lot worse. And so I think, honestly, I feel this space is still very, very raw and very difficult for newbies to navigate, because even these so-called marks of authenticity can't fully be trusted, and that's really tough, right? So I would say just be very, very careful, even when a blue check mark verified Twitter account tweets something that's suspicious. Try your best, tagging on to what Ethspresso said, if it's too good to be true, it usually is, and just try to put on some a cap of rationality and sensibility before you click on links. But actually, I had a question for you, Johannes, because I think for the general Web3 public to understand things like 2FA with Google Authenticator as well as Authy, what is the key difference between those two? Could you speak on that? And why should somebody trust their passwords and 2FA to a Web2 company?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good point, Fox. And I wanted also to mention that if an account has a blue check mark and it gets compromised, for example, it's an account about whatever, music or pop, then it's super easy to just rename that account to a different handle and a different name. And then it can look like a real influencer. And if you then get some more followers by buying them, then it's very hard to distinguish because it has a blue check mark and it has that famous ape, for example. And then people get easy tricked thinking that's a real person, which they are trusting. Yeah, you ask about the two-factor authentication. Yeah, the problem is, okay, you have username and password, and then you need the second factor, which is your code, which is always refreshing. The problem is, if you then lose access to your two-factor authentication secrets, then you have a big problem because you can't log in, right? So a big part of security is also to be able to restore everything, even if your phone gets lost or breaks accidentally. You know, they fall down into the toilet and they are gone because they are wet. So I would say Google Authenticator has a big problem because there is no option, at least last time when I checked, to back up this store and put it to another phone. And for this, I personally recommend Authy because Authy has an option that you enable sync on different devices, and then you can sync it with your Google Drive. To access it later on, you still need to enter a password, but it's way better when you accidentally delete or lose your phone to restore everything. Because if your two-factor device is gone, it gets really tricky. On some companies, you can call the customer support and ask them to reset this. But exactly this is the point, is that they will say, no, please prove us that you are the right person, and then you have no chance because you have lost your two-factor. So I really recommend that if you are counting on two-factor authentication, please make sure that you have a backup of these keys of the two-factor device. And it's also not a good advice to use short message services, SMS, because this can be easily tricked. There are a lot of examples where people just got a copy of your SIM card and were able to get your secret password. June and Ethspresso, both of you. Ladies first, of course.
So as far as I know, Seneca's Twitter account has been hacked despite of him using two-factor authentication. So I was wondering, how does this work that hackers can bypass this additional security actually?
So if you ask me, usually it's still a human fault. So I have just recently listened to his Two Bored Apes podcast, and there he said, yeah, maybe 2 years ago when security wasn't that important, maybe I have stored some sensitive data like these two-factor code to restore it on a device. He said maybe, but he was still not sure. But he admitted that maybe in the very past there was some piece of digital information on some of his devices. Ethspresso.
Yeah. So just wanted to also add on to that. So really like the Authy service for that backup reason. And for kind of regular Google Authenticator, the most common way to restore that if you lose the device are these backup codes that services always ask you, do you want your backup codes? And you can just recommend everyone to take the extra minute to to get those backup codes and put them in a password manager. So I think that's
So
also
these are pretty much like your seed phrase for Google Authenticator.
Yes. So it's like 10 codes typically, and you can restore the two-factor authentication using one of those codes later on any device. So as Johannes pointed out, keep them safe, treat them like secrets, and I personally find password managers super useful for this. So I put the recovery codes in there as a note.
Yes, and it's important to know, okay, you are giving your two-factor authentication app to centralized application like Authy, but then on the other hand, you still have your password. So if you are doing this, you are making it a little bit more weaker by having trust into Authy. You should, of course, make sure that your password are never compromised. Again, as Ethspresso said, use password safe LastPass, KeePass, MacPass. I will collect some links for you. And this is another big topic. Don't put your passwords into a Word document on your drive and wonder that it's gone one day, all your data and all your money. Kasper, you have a note to add?
Yeah, no, I just thought that in addition to to introducing the Angel's Wing, Johannes and Ethspresso, the both of you should give a very brief introduction of yourselves as well, given your tech background, to at least lend weight behind all these recommendations, because I think it's very useful and it's important to know that to our listeners, that you guys speak from a position of authority. So why don't you just briefly introduce what you do in real life work?
Okay, maybe I can start. So I'm just a developer, right? I can teach computers to do what I want them to do. And regarding Web3 security and cryptography, I'm just very interested in this topic. But in my study, there was nothing like this.
Yeah, but in your web design for clients, I'm sure they talk to you about security all the time, and that's one of your most important things, right?
For sure, yes, we are doing. I'm doing big applications, front and back end. We are talking about demilitarized zones, about sniffing the network, how to avoid man-in-the-middle attack, what I should do for the web server. So that's something I'm aware of. But this is slightly different to what we are doing here, because here we are right now talking about how to make your Twitter account secure, and later on about the wallet. This is something which is for everybody really new, I would say. So I try to read everything, and I try to understand how the hacks were able to happen. That's my my advice and how I got my knowledge. What's about you, Ethspresso?
Yeah, so happy to share. So I'm a computer scientist by degree, and in my normal work, I work primarily in data science these days. And I've been in crypto a while. I feel it's been like 5 years now, and I think I've probably been lucky. Haven't fallen for any scams yet, knock on wood and all that stuff. So I think it just, by being in this space a while, you see so many things happening, and there are kind of new ways that people get scammed regularly. So kind of just by paying attention and trying to understand how stuff works technically is kind of the best way to try to educate yourself here and try to stay safe. And of course, if something is strange or unexpected, then check with friends. That's always a good thing. Like, this looks strange. Do you agree? Type of stuff. So I think I've been doing that, and I love to know how stuff works down to the wire. So in the kind of early days, I went deep into computer networking because I wanted to know, how does this internet stuff work? And yeah, that's basically a short introduction about me.
If there's anything suspicious to me on Web3, I always ask Johannes or Ethspresso.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think we covered the Twitter part intensively. So enable two-factor would be a good advice. Always be super skeptical. Don't trust these influencers, which are chilling stuff. Better go to a nice community and ask them first. So it's not important that you are the first one going to mint. Please wait a little second and verify twice that everything is fine. And if you have doubts, yep, maybe it's not the best idea. So that would be my take about Twitter security. And let's move on, I would say, to the topic of Discord security, because here it's always, you will have there are a lot of points where you get, where a lot of scammers try to trick you. That's the right wording. So again, for Discord, you have to enable a two-factor authentication, for example. That's for sure. So the same applies for Twitter and for Discord. Please, please, please enable two-factor authentication. If you are an artist, you don't want somebody to write in your name and claim a new mint. And for somebody using Discord, it's also not very nice that somebody is able to access your account. But let's ask around. What should I do when I'm a normal user, for example, just starting my Web3 career and trying to join the first Discord? What should I do to be a little bit more protected?
Always turn off your DMs.
That's a great idea. What happens if
you're going to lose friends? You're going to lose friends like that.
Well, once you get to know someone closer, then you can accept their friendship, and then you can start your DM journey. But I wouldn't allow DMs from any strangers just because they can send you some malicious links or files, and if this stuff downloads on your device, then it can potentially access some. I mean, I'm not exactly how this everything works. Maybe Johannes can elaborate on this more, but yeah. And there seems to be, this is something I would like to ask you. So what are some of these possible scams on Discord, or what should people look out for?
Usually it's if you are starting your Discord career, then you join a Discord and immediately 2 or 3 bots trying to trick you, telling you now is a chance to mint. And especially if you are new to the space, you think it's the right thing, and you are immediately losing your funds. So chances are 99% that if somebody is DMing you on Discord, it's a scam. Really, I think from 200 DMs, only one person was not a scammer, which was Casper, but everybody else was just trying to scam me. Yes. I sometimes
maybe I was too, but not successful.
So because I sometimes try to talk with them and trying to be interested, and usually they realize that I just want to mock them, so they are really searching for the people believing you that you are the influencer, or they try to tell you that they are a bot. Please click here and please scan this QR code. Yes, this is important. Never, never, never scan a QR code to gain some access, because this is a big trick to log in as your account. So whatever you do, don't scan the QR code. That's very important.
This has to do with how a lot of the project Discords got hacked. So a lot of them talk about the certificates that the scammers got access to, right? And they talk about how somehow these scammers managed to get go through some sophisticated way of tricking the Discord admins.
It wasn't that sophisticated. Usually the admins of a Discord are also degen themselves. So they are logged in as an admin to their own Discord. And then they are on another Discord. And then a bot is telling them, yeah, please prove that you are holding that NFT, or please prove that you are a human. Well, okay, I'm a human. I'm going to scan this code in my phone. But then the phone is doing a redirect, going to the website. And if you are still logged in on the website and not only on the Discord client, so if you are still logged in on the website, which is super easy to be logged in the Discord website, then magically they can do stuff with your credentials, which means the first thing they will do, they will give themselves webhook rights so that they can do something automatically, and then it's gone. Then they will wait some months so that you are not aware that your account is already compromised. And then if something important happens, for example, you are doing a mint, then they will use your credentials to write evil stuff. So
I see.
Yeah, so one thing you could usually do is just use the Discord client and log out of the web version of Discord. This is super important. For example, so I've read this. And another thing is, if you are a Discord admin, it's a good idea to have 2 accounts, right? One account to use in your normal daily Discord, DGen live, trying to get everything first. And the other account with admin rights should just used for this one purpose. That would be a very good advice if you're an artist. Make a second account with the security, which is able to delete stuff, which is able to pin messages. And if you are really into this, you could even think about that the artist account, the official one, has fewer security rights, and that the backup admin account has more rights, so that even if you get compromised, you can kick out yourself, because when a Discord is under attack, the scammers will try to kick out all admins and delete all messages. You have to kick the scammers out, and for this you need an admin account.
Shall we implement this additional security on our own Discord too?
Yes.
Since you're talking about this.
I'm so lazy.
The more you talk about it, Johannes, the scarier it gets.
Yeah, Discord security is super scary. All the rights, all the buttons you can do wrong. And you see it. The Discords all of them are hacked one day. I'm not aware of one Discord which wasn't hacked. Maybe the Meta Angels Discord, but most of them had once a security flaw.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the reason why I asked about this, how Discords can get hacked so easily, is because I've seen so many big projects, like even Boss Beauties had their Discord hacked, and there was this bot or scammer just posting and kicking out all the admins and posting multiple messages on the Discord. And I saw it. There were like 50 notifications. I knew something was wrong. But to me, I was just very surprised that a big project like this that has lasted till this long somehow got hacked. And if a big project could fall prey to a vulnerability, then the odds for small projects, it's even higher, right? So yeah, that was why I asked. I was just very surprised that even big projects were vulnerable.
Yeah, the problem are the moderators in the end. So the 333 Club Discord, for example, was compromised because one of the moderators had some rights, for example, to pin messages. And the right to pin messages is also the right to delete stuff, which is a very bad idea. But this is how Discord works. So in that case, when the 333 Club Discord was hacked, that one moderator accidentally somehow got tricked into clicking some stuff, most probably, and then the attacker had his credentials and was able to do this evil stuff. So it's very tricky. All your moderators must be also super aware of security, because if you have a big Discord, you have a lot of moderators, and it just needs one moderator doing something spooky, and your security is gone. So Discord is really not the best tool if it goes to security, that's for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it really helps give some perspective.
But I have also thought about that we might do months of security tips and for example, enable two-factor authentication, and for example, put all rights to a special account which is just used for this, and then I have to do it also for myself, you know. So like, I'm going to stop smoking, you tell everybody, and then you have to do it. I think I should also start something like, please please create a dedicated admin account, and then I have to be a role model and do it first, right? Because right now our Discord, the main security threat is myself, because if I'm going to be hacked, then there will be a free mint from the Angel Swing, you know?
Yeah, so this is why only Johannes can pin messages, by the way, if anyone wonders.
Now everybody knows that I have to do something, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think it's a good point about kind of even big Discords, because as you mentioned, big Discords have growing teams managing the Discord because they have to. So many people, so much to manage. And that attack surface just increases with more people with rights in the Discord. So that's unfortunate. And yeah, we can hope that Discord itself implements more security features, kind of realizing what's going on in all of these NFT communities. But yeah, in the meantime, be vigilant, and especially around the time of mint. So when a project is going to mint, that's typically when the risk is highest as well for fake announcements and takeovers like that.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of Discords are closing everything for 24 hours during the mint, because in that phase, bad persons will try everything to trick you, because FOMO kicks in the fear of missing something out is very strong. And if you are under stress, you do things which you wouldn't do normally. So normally you wouldn't be clicking on some bogus website and clicking on mint and not reading the text. But in the phase of missing something, your brain, yes, is not working perfectly, I would say. So during mint, please be calm, sleep over something a little bit maybe. And if you are missing one mint, who cares? There are so many of them. But the worst thing which could happen is that you are losing the stuff in your wallet. And I think this is an important topic, right? We should talk most of the time in this space about wallet security, which is the next topic, right? So again, I will start with one big advice that I have. So my advice would be, today, go please to a website from the hardware supplier. So please go to the website of Ledger. Please go to the original website of Treasure. I hope this is pronounced correctly. Or maybe go to the website of the Grid plus Lattice One and order yourself a hardware wallet today. That's super important. But only ever from the original website, never ever from Amazon or whatever. And if somebody is on a conference and saying, I have some hardware wallets for you for free, don't do it. Always just from the original website, get yourself a hardware wallet. That would be the first advice. And I'm sure Ethspresso has an next advice.
Yeah, I think I have one that it kind of adds on to that kind of continuation. So use multiple wallets. I think that was one of the big things for me. Like the last year, I was using one wallet for, I don't know, 4 years in this space, which is not a good idea. So don't do that. So use multiple wallets. It's super easy to create multiple accounts in MetaMask and use a hardware wallet for everything that's valuable. And even if so say that you are successful and have some very valuable NFTs, then consider having a dedicated account just for that. You can create multiple accounts on a ledger as well, or you can order another ledger, because at some point the cost of a ledger is tiny compared to the value of the NFT. So then it's worth it to get another ledger just for that valuable asset.
So I think I just wanted to chip in that there's absolutely no reason in times like this where gas is super low to not have a burner or mint wallet. I started my NFT journey when the NFT market was really booming, and I really felt the pain of using a burner wallet. And I decided for myself that the trade-off back then, when gas was often at triple digits or more, that using a burner wallet was just eating too much into my ETH. So I decided just to keep minting from like a single wallet. But in these times, there should be absolutely no reason why you're not having a burner wallet. Like shifting NFTs costs you probably like $1 or so. So yeah, I think that's just my little addition. You just have to be cognizant of the fact that when gas goes back up and you need to shift NFTs around, I guess you need to make a decision for yourself. Like, is it worth it? If shifting an NFT starts costing like $10 to move from one wallet to another, I don't know, Ethspresso and Johannes, do you have any tips on how to decide whether if gas gets real crazy next time? Hopefully soon, I don't know, meaning a bull market's back. How do you decide whether it's worth it or not?
To move the funds around, you mean?
No, because the concept of having a burner wallet basically means that after a while you need to shift your NFTs out of the burner wallet, right? Because otherwise your burner wallet becomes your main wallet. It will be full of NFTs.
No, so you can just use your one throwaway wallet all the time and move the stuff. Yes, very often to your very secure cold wallet. So if you're, it's the best thing is that your burner wallet is nearly empty.
Yeah. So my point is, right now when gas is low, there's absolutely no reason why you are not using a separate wallet. But when gas becomes high, like when I was starting my NFT journey, when gas was often in triple digits, it can add up, right? Shifting your NFTs from one wallet to another to empty your burner wallet. Yeah, so that was my point, that it might get a bit tougher in the bull market, but in these times, it definitely is a no-brainer to have a burner wallet.
Yeah, so I think for me, the threshold for when to move something out of the burner wallet kind of changes a bit when the gas is high. So I can leave stuff there a bit longer than I would today with the super low gas. But I think my best tip when it comes to high gas and hardware wallets and moving stuff around is submit the transfer with a lower gas setting than what's currently the gas on the network, because it does fluctuate during the day and the night. And especially when the US is asleep, that's a good time to transfer anything, because they are like 75% of all activity on Ethereum, it seems. So I've done that sometimes, kind of just submit a transaction with, I don't know, 60 GWei instead of 200. And then as long as I don't need to do anything else with that wallet until the next day, it usually goes through during the night sometime. And you don't need to leave anything open, like you can shut off your computer. Like once a transaction is submitted to the blockchain, to the mempool, even though it hasn't gone through yet, the network has it and it will go through at some point.
It's good to mention that you should educate yourself in that case how to cancel a transaction again. Because if you are doing too low gas, it will stay in the mempool for a while. And in Ethereum, you can only do one transaction at a time. So if the low gas transaction isn't picked up from the mempool, then you have a big problem, because you can't do anything more until this transaction goes through. So if you ever come to this situation, it's not a big deal. You just need to cancel the transaction and put in reasonable amount of gas, and then it's gone. But yeah, if you're not aware of this, you are trying to place more transaction on top, and it's not going through. So this was my first experience with MetaMask when I wanted to be super cheap, or wanted to work super cheap, and I haven't understood why nothing works for me. And by the way,
this is what actually happened to me. I also saw like a transaction at a much lower gas, and it just stuck there. I couldn't even cancel it. And Ethspresso figured out that in the end that I had to raise the priority, and then I could cancel it. But it just stuck there for like a day or so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So, and sometimes the wallet, so like MetaMask, can act up a bit and kind of just forget that you submitted something and you don't have the cancel or speed up options. And there are ways to cancel a transaction from a MetaMask on a different browser by messing with this nonce value and stuff. So there are tricks, but yeah, it's sometimes it can take a bit of trial and error to get that done.
Yeah, so you should know that all your transactions on that one wallet are always increasing in numbers. So if you're, so you have to figure out what was my last number, and then you can cancel it. But this requires some more sophisticated knowledge about security, or better about wallets, and this is something we should make easier. But I think MetaMask got better over the time, because in the past there was no cancel button, there was only EtherScan. So now at least they have their cancel button, but you have to remember where you did it, on a phone or on a mobile or on a desktop device. And maybe on the other device is this cancel button still visible. By the way, Dasha, you requested to speak. Do you have something to add to our discussion regarding Web3 security, excuse me?
Oh yeah, hi. No, I don't think I'm actually have any questions. I'm just listening to you guys and waiting if I have any ideas to speak out.
But one question to you: you already have a cold hardware wallet?
Sorry?
Do you already have a hardware wallet?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I would like to add another point. For example, first, I would like to make a little distinguishing between the two types of hardware wallets or wallets we are talking about. So when we are talking about a cold hardware wallet, usually this means that this is a physical device. And because you are using it only for special things, we consider this as cold. But it's important to know that still you are not allowed to click on any transaction without reading, because even if it's on a hardware device, the blockchain works without your hardware wallet. So this is for a lot of people something they need to figure out. It doesn't matter if your wallet is on a physical device or if it's inside your computer. If you're going to submit a transaction, it doesn't matter where the device is. So your hardware wallet is just protecting your seed phrase. And I would like to give some hints about the seed phrase too. So your wallet has a special special very long number, which is your private key. This long number, nobody should ever get access to that long number. And usually if you have your very long number on your laptop, then chances are high that at one day somebody will hack your computer. So you want to protect that long number even from yourself. And that's why we have called these hardware wallets. These hardware wallets, you connect it to your computer. It will never give this private key out, and it will be used to sign transactions. That's important. So the seed always stays inside this hardware wallet and never comes out. So what happens if you want to, if you're losing this device or if it's broken? That is the important part. You can ask that device, what are your 24 words? Sometimes you can ask that device, and sometimes it's giving you these 24 words automatically when you first started. In both cases, you have to get yourself a pen and a paper and write these words down. By the way, it doesn't matter if it's 12 words or 24 words, both is secure, but people prefer to have 24 words. So you are writing them down with a pen and on real paper, And now it's important that you never ever put that 24 words in any digital device. Please never make a photography of it. Please never put it in the photocopy machine, because also people can get the memory out of that device. And the only thing you are able to do, allowed to do, is to store this paper on a secure place. And if you are still feeling uncomfortable because it's on paper, then my next advice would be to get yourself a steel wallet. So this is, it doesn't matter how it works. Sometimes you can use a hammer and pin some holes into a big steel plate. Sometimes you can puzzle some words into something so that it stays there. But usually it's better than paper because it can't burn. So if your house burns or your kids are playing with your paper, which is a real security threat if they are just writing on it, then maybe your 24 words are gone. And so my next advice would be to buy yourself a steel wallet and hammer these 24 words into steel. And this will survive everything. So later on, I will write down some links to online shops where you can order a steel wallet and put your 24 words really, really secure. And please never forget, these 24 words should always remain in your hardware wallet.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. And I think also it's good to consider, at least if it's a wallet for high value assets, then you can also split up the set of words, right? And store some in one location and some in another location, just to minimize the chance that someone get access to all of them at once.
This is tricky. I have read once an article that if you are unable to get half of the words with enough cryptographic power, you are able to guess the other words. So it's not a good idea to just split the paper into two pieces. With a lot of effort, chances are much more higher that you can guess the other words. So it's not a good idea to just store 12 words here and 12 words there. Because if there's enough funds inside, really bad actors are able to guess the other words. I have once read an article about this topic, and I will try to find it again and post also this article inside the description. So at least to my knowledge, it's not a good idea to split up the words. It's better to hide them all together so that nobody is able to see them in the first place. But splitting it into two pieces, at least to my knowledge, is not the best idea.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think I did read about Snowflow's security practices. So Snowflow is the creator of Artblocks, and it does have some important wallets, like, for example, the wallet that has the rights to mint Chrome squiggles. And he was saying how he was kind of splitting up the seed phrase into 6 pieces and storing them across the country, different vaults.
That would work.
Okay, so 6 different locations is better than 2 locations. That's
exactly. So exactly, it's just if you know half of the words, then it's theoretically possible to guess so many words until you have a match. You know, It's still super hard, but computers are getting better, and you have ASICs miner, and they have enormous amount of calculation power. So just imagine in 10 years, people will have the ability to guess the other words if they have half of them. Maybe not now, but there will be a time where hardware power is so huge that you just need half of the words. I think it's theoretically impossible to ever guess them, your private key, to guess them completely without any words. That will be never possible. Yes, you have to protect all of them. That's important.
A very important question I have for both Ethspresso and Johannes. You guys are tech, very authoritative in the tech space, but what do your partners even know where to find your seed phrases and how to use it in the event that you are faced with an emergency?
Yes. Oh man, this is so important because there are so many stories where some crypto rich person died and all the kids, partner, whatever, were never ever again able to get access to all these big funds. So this is something which I think is really important. So yes, I made a steel wallet, and I told my wife where she can find them, because one day maybe bus will hit me and it's over with me, and then I don't want my loved family left without any access to these funds. So yes, you have to trust your partner, of course, but I think there are so many there were so many cases in the past where all the money was gone. So I don't want to have the same situation. Yes. Ethspresso, what's about you?
Yeah, so I've also shared where I keep the seed phrase. I think the challenge is rather to try to get access to all of the wallets and accounts. Like, I find that in Web3 space, there's like a new blockchain every other week, or that's maybe exaggerating, but there's like a million resources, and even by keeping all of the kind of recovery keys in the same password manager, it's still a challenge for anyone else to try to recover it all in the case of disaster. So I think that's something to think about and probably go over multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I ask is because I test my wife like once every quarter, and she gives the wrong answer all the time. So,
so where's the hard about it?
So do you remember where I keep the seed phrases? And I do split it up into multiple parts, and she gives me the wrong answer all the time. So I'm quite worried. I need to. It would kind of defeat the purpose if I write it down. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to kind of make sure she understands that we have significant amounts in those 24 or 12 words that we have. So anyway, my point is that it's important in case of emergencies to ensure that your partner knows how to find those words, and like Ethspresso said, even how to use it. Like if you have multiple wallets using that same seed phrase, make sure they are aware of it. Yeah, because that single seed phrase can generate multiple wallets, and you might not store your crypto in the first one, right? So you might have to go a bit deeper. So stuff like that.
Very good point. Thank you for putting this out. So very important is to have a hardware wallet, and then it's very important to just use that hardware wallet for storing stuff. So every time you have something which has a lot of value, you should definitely move it out of your burner wallet. Because if you're doing some very, very much DGAN stuff and download something on your computer, then consider your computer to be compromised. So yes, you can create multiple addresses with the same seed phrase, but I would consider everything on my computer as in risk. So the only thing you can do is to move it to a wallet where the seed phrase is not on a digital device, except on the Ledger, Trezor, or Grid Plus. So to answer the question, even if it hurts, everything which is on your computer is under risk. So you have to move it one day to that one wallet which is not on your physical device, which means it will hurt again when the gas prices are high, Caspar. But I think it's important, because if you imagine losing your Bored Ape just because you wanted to save $100, that doesn't matter. So, of course, if these NFTs are not that high priced, maybe just create a new burner wallet and start over again. But you still have to consider your computer as compromised every time. Because, yes, if you have something which is very, very valuable, then a lot of people will know that and will try everything to get access to your computer. By the way, as for example, June, I think you have done this once in a while. What should I do if I accidentally clicked on some bogus mint site and I'm now in fear that I'm going to lose everything? What's the first action somebody should do?
I think in the first place, if I would mint on a site that I don't know, then I would use a burner wallet with nothing in it. So in theory, nothing should happen, right? If this burner wallet gets hacked in this particular case.
And I think I just wanted to point about revoke cache and Etherscan. So sometimes people click on allow all transactions. And if that happens, there are some websites where you can check if you have allowed somebody or another contract to move your funds out of your wallet. And that what I wanted to point out that there are websites like revoke.cash or Etherscan, where you can check your contract and see on which contracts you allowed them to move your funds away. And usually this should be just Uniswap, OpenSea, and other marketplaces. But if you are seeing something on this website which you don't know, why you have allowed this contract to move stuff out of your wallet, then I would advise to revoke that access again. And I think last time you checked your wallet. That's why I was thinking about this. But I think my introduction wasn't that great. By the way, I see Crystal here.
I think like when OpenSea moved to the new contract when was it? In February sometime, then everyone was kind of like afraid that something like happened. And I think I did that actually. I checked on the Revoke website and like I didn't have any contracts that was like active basically. So yeah, but it's a good point that you mentioned.
Yes, and again, very important, don't trust anybody, just ask. We will link in the YouTube description later on a link to revoke.cash and to Etherscan. And please never ever trust anybody on Twitter telling you, here is a website to revoke access, because in the past, a lot of scammers made an exact copy of revoke.cash to trick people into do the opposite. So it's really just revoke.cash or etherscan.io, and never ever trust anybody who's sending you a link to revoke access, because scammers are already aware of this and will send you, for example, to revoke some other domain ending, and then you are again under attack. By the way, we are in the middle of the wallet security topic, but I would like to switch again back to the Discord security topic, because I right now see Crystal in our audience. And we already talked a little bit about Discord security, but I'm pretty sure that that Crystal Groves has some more tips about this topic. But first of all, Crystal, could you please introduce yourself to the audience? What are your, please tell us a little bit about your background regarding this Web3 security topic.
Absolutely. Thank you. I apologize that I didn't make it earlier. I'm still in recovery from COVID, I guess. I mean, I'm feeling like 95% better, but my brain fog is still there. So yes, I am Crystal. I moderate for a couple big projects like VFriends and Boss Beauties, Fame Ladies Squad, Flyfish Club, and BFF. I'm also the community manager over at Legacy Leaders, which is minting next week. And that is a project done by Pili Rusi that is all about teaching people how to invest in real estate. It's a big educational platform. I'm very excited about that. But a lot of my experience in Discord security stems from the start of my time at VFriends, because I mean, as you guys know, Gary definitely brings the hype, but he also brings the target on his back with his project. And there's not a day that goes by that we're not dealing with someone attempting to do some kind of shady thing with either our members or trying to join the Discord. So I've been doing Discord security audits and setups for quite a while now, from a lot of the that I learned, not only through my time at VFriends, but there's a lot of other consultants out there. They've got their own Discords where they, you know, teach and share knowledge. So it's a big niche right now. And I would say that one of the bigger things, I mean, everybody knows that you're supposed to turn your DMs off and, you know, don't click any links. And even what you mentioned earlier about making sure you're going to the right URL. And there were times where someone was able to optimize a website for Google, which is something I actually do professionally in Web2, the SEO, to rank higher than vfriends.com. So when people were searching for it, or even to purchase Google Ads, they would just click on the first link that came up, and that ended up being a scam. And so people connect their wallets to it, and you know the process. But I think that was a very good thing to mention in general. But for Discord, did you guys have any specific questions you wanted me to go over, or maybe go over some of the examples of way I've seen people scammed on Discord?
Everything, but maybe the first thing could be that you are, so if you have a new Discord where nobody really cared about security, what are your first steps that you are doing to ensure that the security is higher than before? That would be something which I'm really interested in.
I would say that one of the biggest things that I think all Discord projects should do, and most of them don't, and I've seen people even distribute lists of all the different projects that have been hacked over like the last month or the last 2 weeks, and I don't think any of those projects had these particular things set up, is you have what's called a cold admin account. And basically, for those that aren't familiar with that, it's basically a Discord account that you've created on a device that you do not use to connect to any kind of Web3 wallets, do any kind of transactions with crypto. Like, it's not connected to anything except for Discord. And you have your own independent email for this Discord account. I mean, it's just a Discord account on a device you don't use anywhere else. You don't log into any other Discords with it. And then you transfer ownership of your Discord to that account. And you make that account have the absolute highest role in the hierarchy. And it's the only one that has administrative permissions. You can have more than one cold admin, and it's probably a good idea to do that if you have someone that you can trust, like a spouse or partner, because there may be times where you're just not around. But the goal is the admins, or whoever your moderators are, they should have the ability to do some basic things like deleting messages, banning users, things like that. But they should never have the ability to create roles, create channels, or even make announcements. You have an announcement channel, and that's the biggest part of what a scammer focuses on, is that announcement channel. Because once they take over, they're just throwing out these announcements like nobody's business, and they're tagging your whole Discord, especially if it's from a compromised account. So if none of the admins have the ability to make announcements, none of them have the ability to make roles, make channels, then you eliminate the ability for a compromised account to then affect everybody in your Discord. And then the question is, well, how do we make announcements as a project? You also have another role called a mention role. And you log into your cold admin when you want to make an announcement, and you give whoever's going to make that announcement, whether it's an admin or whoever, temporary access to that mention role that can then go in and make an announcement, and then you remove it right away. We started doing that in Boss Beauties. We shut down anybody's ability to make announcements overnight. That way, most of these hacks will happen around 1 p.m. Eastern So a lot of some of these projects, especially Boss Beauties, a lot of us are on the eastern part of the United States. So we're sleeping. And this takes the away any risk at all that someone can make an announcement while we're sleeping. So that's a benefit of it. It's something a little complicated, but it's something that certainly saves a lot of discords if you can do the whole cold admin setup. No admins have permissions they don't need on a day-to-day basis. And that definitely helps keep your Discord secure. It's not 100% though.
That's a good point. I wasn't aware that this is already a term about this cold word for this cold admin account. That's how it's called. And have you thought about using some webhooks to make announcement via a website or so? Because I can't imagine that then only one or two people are allowed to make notifications. Then yes, because usually the Discords are making a lot of them, and then this is all concentrated on one account, right? And this person has a lot of workload.
A lot of projects, I think, avoid webhooks. I think it's a good idea to avoid it because if let's say admin account has access to webhooks or something like that and they get compromised, that's actually what some of these scammers do is not only do they get access to an admin account, they then give themselves all these cool roles or they make themselves a role that can manage webhooks and also can post announcements. And then even if you ban them from the server, and this actually happened to Boss Beauties in June before I started doing their security audit, is we banned the scammer immediately. As soon as we found out about it, we banned the scammer, which it took a while because the owner was, we couldn't get a hold of them. But even if you ban them, they still have access to that webhook and you may not know it's there. So they were still able to post announcements and they weren't even in the server anymore. So I honestly don't know any server that really should have webhooks at all. I don't think it's a good idea, but there are pieces of software out there because I own a digital agency and I do social marketing. I use a program called Social Pilot. It's a lot like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or something like that. You can set up something like that. I know in Social Pilot, you can actually have multiple users be able to log in without having your Twitter password and make posts on your Twitter's behalf, which I think is a good idea because then you don't have to share your password, but you still give other people the ability to log in and make a post saying, hey, don't do this, or, you know, here's our link or something like that. But I mean, you still run into the issue like we saw with Zeneca the other day where his account got hacked, but he had 2FA set up on his Twitter. And one of the things that people are saying now is even with 2FA, and that's both Discord and Twitter, you're not completely secure. So one of the things I've done, I actually just purchased this the other day, is I set up, I purchased, basically it's like a device you plug into your computer. And it's almost like an authenticator, like Google Authenticator, but it's a hard device. It's like your cold wallet, your hardware wallet. You have to plug it in order to log in or access a device. And apparently a lot of big Twitter or companies that are on Twitter use that in order to prevent the Twitters from getting hacked, because you never know whether a post that goes on Twitter is from the right person either.
I think it's a YubiKey he got, right?
Yeah, Yubico. Yeah, It's a YubiKey. I bought 2 of them, and I don't know whether it's useful on Discord. I don't know that Discord lets you use it, but I know that Twitter will, so that's why I bought it. Because as our Twitters grow, even as projects or just as individuals or influencers, you know, I don't want to be responsible for anybody clicking on a link that somehow my compromised Twitter account put out. Like, I would feel so guilty.
By the way, these extra device to do the 2-factor authentication beyond Google Authenticator, which is a well-known protocol. So I'm 90% sure that the Ledger is also able to do this. So there is a Ledger app that you can install, and then your Ledger acts as such a device. Well, of course, you need a Ledger for this, but exactly the same thing is also, the Ledger has an app for this to also fulfill this role as a 2-factor authentication device. So having a special device is super, super great, because then you have that device only for this purpose. But in the meanwhile, you could also lose your Ledger for this.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely sure. I do have a ledger myself too, but and that would be, I think, one of the other things that you guys might have talked about earlier is, you never mint from your game wallet that you have your heavy hitter NFTs on. And I mean, there are instances where I know with BFF, you have to show that you have a friendship bracelet before you can do certain things. And I mean, and with the pre-mint scare last week. So even then, I'm still not sure I really want to connect to anything. I have, even with my ledger, if I have to connect to VFriends in order to get access to Discord roles, I'll do that. But I always make sure I'm doing enough research to make sure that I feel comfortable doing it. And even then, nothing's 100% because almost all of the stuff that we see happen is user error. And we're connecting to something that's not secure, or we're FOMOing into an announcement link for some sort of surprise mint. So I honestly think that the best thing we can do is just educate ourselves.
Some really great advices. So you also said, thank you very much for this. So you also said you have a list of very common scam methods that people on Discord are targeted from. So this was the second point.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of the common ones. I did want to share, there was a couple stories that we've dealt with on VFriends, and there's two in particular that really stood out that I think it's important to tell because we focus so much on Discord security, but I sometimes feel like we sometimes ignore other security protocols as well that will affect our NFTs. And there's two particular instances that happened on VFriends that to me were heart-wrenching. But we had a user, her parents had just died. I don't know if it was both or just one of them. I don't remember off the top of my head. But a parent had died and her house burnt down. And a friend had sent her a DM on Instagram. This wasn't on Discord, and said, hey, I need you to check out this mint that's happening. And it's someone she knew. She knew for years. She knew this person. And apparently it was a compromised Instagram account. So you can lose access to your Instagram too. And she clicked on it and she lost her VFriend. And VFriends at the time were worth 15 ETH or whatever. And she was homeless. She just lost a parent. And now she just lost a huge investment that she had taken because of an Instagram DM. So it's kind of like back in the day when you remember how family members would always send you these weird links or chain letters and Facebook Messenger, that now we have to deal with that in the NFT community too. And I hated seeing that for her, but I highlight it because we focus so much on Discord, but we don't realize that this could happen anywhere. And the other example that I had was another woman in our community in VFriends whose husband had a heart attack, and he was a cop, and they're both at retirement age. They're like in their 60s. And she wanted to do something that would allow him to retire early so he wouldn't have to go back to work because of his heart condition. So she was on LinkedIn and she was messaging who she thought was Gary Vaynerchuk. It turned out not to be Gary Vaynerchuk, and she did everything right. And she insisted on a video to prove that it was him, which Gary says that is what you need to do. Just if you're not sure if it's me, I'll send you a video. They would send over a video of Gary, but it was always the sound wasn't working. So they stripped out the sound, pretended that their sound wasn't working. And this took 3 months of them gaining her trust for her to then open a wallet on this website that they were linking her. And they put all of their money into that wallet. And then they completely lost access because it was a scam account. So even on LinkedIn, and even with all the 3 months worth of social engineering, you can still have your assets stolen, unfortunately.
Big oof.
Yeah, I felt so bad for that one because at that age, retirement is a scary process in general, but then to lose all of your money that you saved up for retirement, that's just, I can't imagine.
So again, I think so it always boils down to the very most biggest principle to have that dedicated wallet on a hardware device where you are sending it into it, the NFTs and the big funds. And maybe we should add on top. And if you want to move anything out, or if you want to connect it to your computer, please ask your partner first, for example, as a second security layer. Because if you have to explain him that Gary V talked to you and he wants to mint from that website, maybe your partner will stop you and say, no, I'm pretty much sure that Gary V is not interested in you because he has 1 million of followers. So maybe we should add this, add another layer 0 security. Layer 0 means the persons that you maybe include your partner into this. And if you ever touch that device, then you should maybe ask your partner, should we do this? Because you can always send stuff to your ledger if it's not connected. But if you put it into your computer, maybe you should, ask somebody or a friend, whatever, talk with him about this. Because if you explain it to another person, usually it sounds very funny, you know?
Yeah.
Britney Spears called me. She needs some money very urgently because she's right now there and she can't get access to her plane, you know? Some really funny stories if you tell it to another person. But after 3 months of social engineering, it sounds reasonable. Britney Spears knows me, you know?
But I think it's a good point to make that for me, it's worth it. If I'm going to mint something and I have to prove that I own another NFT, it's worth the couple bucks to transfer it to a different wallet temporarily that doesn't have all my other cool NFTs in it, mint what I need to mint, and then transfer it back. I mean, yes, it costs money, but the amount of money it costs versus losing it is so insignificant that to me, it just makes sense.
And the worst thing about this, just 2 weeks ago, the one big website which is used by everybody to prove ownership of an NFT was Premint, and even this website got hacked. This was something I wasn't thinking about even, because usually I was thinking, okay, it's a Premint link, everything is fine. And now imagine even this very, very important website got hacked. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. You can't even trust Premint. Just move the ape to another wallet, prove that you are an owner, and move the ape back into the very important wallet, because even Premint got hacked.
Exactly.
We moved out of the Discord topic regarding security, and I think we are already back into the topic about wallet security. And I know that Ethspresso is usually the one in our Discord who's checking the contracts if they are malicious. Ethspresso, this is a very, yes, not that easy topic, but could you please tell us what you are doing if you are investigating contract, if it's trustworthy to click on mint?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. So as a developer, I love to figure out how stuff works, and these contracts, thankfully, are open source on Etherscan, usually. When looking at smart contracts, it takes a bit of getting used to kind of see the patterns to look for. But thankfully, the Web3 space and NFTs are built on common standards. So, for example, for a token to be an NFT, it needs to comply with the ERC 721 standard or the ERC 1155. And those standards have well-defined ways of how things should work, for example, for transferring an NFT, for minting, for checking ownership. So what ends up here is that most of the contracts look the same. They follow the same template. It's kind of more or less the same code. And then in some cases, like for example, MetaAngels, you have additional logic for lending. So in some projects, there is kind of additional logic like that. But when looking at a smart contract to see is there something strange about it, I typically focus on the parts of the contract code for minting and for transferring, and typically for the approval. So those are three main pieces of functionality that all these contracts have. And for example, for minting, the mint should not try to grant approvals to the smart contract or to other accounts when minting. Kind of the mint sequence should be very straightforward. Typically, check that the price is right, and check that the person is on the allow list if that's part of the contract, and then go on to actually create the NFT and store the ownership in the contract. So anything else is typically a red flag, and I look for the same stuff in the transfer function. So we've seen some examples also in that pinned tweet in this space. There are some examples of malicious contract examples, and one of them is a transfer function that also, by the way, is checking whether transfers are blocked. So apparently in that contract, the people who wrote it decided, oh yeah, why don't we add some logic that we can block all transfers if we want to, which is not great, because that means that basically if you mint that and you want to sell it, and suddenly they've decided, oh no, you can't transfer it, you can't do nothing, you're stuck with it, which can be a red flag and maybe a precursor to a rug pull where the owners of the project vanish with the money that are from the mint.
Yes, they can control the floor, right?
Yes, there's been some cases like that, and also I know Casper has mentioned some more stories from the DeFi space where, and you also, Johannes, about ERC's 20 tokens. You can buy them and not sell them.
Oh, so I think the NFT space is still very playing very nicely, because usually people figure out very fast that it's not movable via OpenSea, and then nobody will use it anymore. But so OpenSea is very complex, so it's hard to trick it. But the way Uniswap is working, it's pretty easy. And so in the beginning, all ERC20 contracts were just fine. And at the end of the DeFi summer, nearly every contract had some funny part inside, preventing you from doing stuff. So sometimes it wasn't able to sell on Uniswap, sometimes they could stop things, and sometimes the free mint was costing you money. And once I have seen is every time you transfer it, your money just halves, something like this. So they had all possible ideas to trick you. So in the end of the DeFi summer, nearly every contract had some bug inside, which were costing you money. So in the end, Uniswap wasn't any more fun. Everything was just bogus. In the beginning, you could just dig into it, but then at the end, it wasn't any more fun, because I have looked on any contract and everywhere somebody made some extra lines, as you said.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the keywords, some extra lines. So additional logic that seems strange or unnecessary, that's typically a red flag. And one thing that comes to mind is a story about the Akutars mint, where they had refund logic in the contract. I believe it was Akutars, correct me if I'm wrong, where they had a Dutch auction, and they were going to refund everyone that paid higher than the resting price, which is standard Dutch auction logic. The only difference is that not many people have done that in NFT minting scenarios. So they were one of the first. And sadly, that added logic that they added to the contract had a counting bug that ended up with the result that the team cannot withdraw the funds from the mint, because the conditions to withdraw were that all refunds should have been processed and the counter of number of refunds was bugged. So I think that when I saw that, of course, it's catastrophe for the project. It was something like, I don't know, $35 million or something, locked in a contract that can never be accessed. And seeing that, it's feeling sorry for them and really driving home the point that added logic in a smart contract is dubious usually. So it should comply to the template, to the standards, and preferably nothing more, unless 3 other projects have tested that additional logic already, and if people know that it works as intended.
So we can boil this down. If you are unsure, then go to your preferred community, Meta Angels community, maybe Zen Academy community, or for example, also Curious Eddies Trading Club community, maybe also the Hack community. These are all communities with a lot of helpful people. And for sure, somebody is there able to read contracts. And if you are in doubt, just ask around. Here's the contract address. Could somebody just read through it and tell me if this might be insecure or not? Because we are not the only ones who can read that stuff. And of course, if the contract is not readable, then of course you should never mint, right? So if it's if the source code is not readable, then it's a super red flag, and you just shouldn't do it. I think we should wrap that up. Let's do some last tips from everybody. Maybe some good questions, good practices, which are more general. So my first advice, which is very much just general, is don't trust any influencer because they can be compromised, or maybe they change their mind. So I have seen over 10 years on Twitter a lot of very trustful influencers. One day they are in struggles, need money, and then they will rock you. Sorry, but nobody can prove me otherwise. Don't trust any influencer. Always do your research. Always be suspicious. And even if it's not a bad actor, his account could be hacked. So my advice is don't trust influencers just because they have many followers. Doesn't matter anything. You should be very, very suspicious regardless of the status of the person.
Yeah, I think for me, my quick tip would be to always bookmark Web3 links, because I have a personal story where I got lazy one day and I just tried to Google a DeFi site, and it was a malicious site. So that was very painful. So if you need to keep going back to a site, please make sure you get the web link from an official source like the project socials, and always bookmark the sites when you want to go back to it.
Yeah, I think I just want to repeat something mentioned in the beginning, like try to control the FOMO, because so much of the bad stuff that's happening that we see in this space is somehow connected to FOMO and people rushing. So it's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. So I think if you have a clear mind, then you can often get a feeling when something feels wrong, or if you fall victim to like a social engineering actor, then you can get a feel whether something right or not. And yeah, as Ethspresso said, try to keep the FOMO low and just try to think clearly is great advice. So what I also usually do is if I have a dedicated web browser where my MetaMask extension is basically installed. So I only use this web browser for like all Web3 related things. So I never surf websites on it. So just in case I click on anything that installs like a malicious like extension on my browser. So just, yeah, like a additional security step.
What's about Crystal? Do you have also one last tip for the audience?
I would say that if we can just keep in mind that most of the issues that we run into with security in Discord and with our NFTs is mostly user error, and that while I appreciate a lot of these projects do try to compensate for losses, that we should start to, I don't know how to put this nicely, but have a little bit more self-accountability for our actions rather than blame these projects when there's some kind of like obviously fishy thing out there that we shouldn't be clicking on. If we really take a moment and just understand that we're kind of responsible for our own assets, like we are our own bank account, I think we'd be much better off.
That's a very good point. We are here still in a very early phase. And yes, maybe in 10 years, everything will be super easy because all technical issues are solved. But then Web3 would be also super boring, and we might not even call it any longer Web3, then we will call it whatever, digital collectives. So right now, it's like in the Wild West. You have to be sure that you are protected, that you have a community around you, that you can ask people. But the great thing about this space is it's also like the Wild West. You can do everything you want, but please maybe consider your actions before doing them. And the best thing is to educate yourself. So then you are front running these scammers. So I would say we will collect later on some more tips, put them on the YouTube description, and maybe even make a Twitter thread where we'll collect all these points that we have made in this 1.5 hours. I think it was a great space. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the space. And thank you, June, Ethspresso, Casper, and Crystal for joining as a speaker. For me, it was a pleasure. And I hope that we made this space a little bit more safer. So thank you very much for being on the show. And next Sunday, we will do, of course, another episode of the Angel Swing chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Johannes, for a great space. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Crystal, for being here, even with COVID.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Get well soon. Get well soon.
Thank you.
In time.